All right. Welcome to the series. This is where you build your first agent. And I don't want I want to make this as raw as possible. I want to make it to where you can see how I work through problems and not skip over the nit and gritty and the hard stuff. We're going to go through everything. We're going to buy a domain. We're going to set up the domain, set up Supabase, set up NAN, set up GitHub, Cloudflare, everything. If you want it all, watch this series. I'm going to go through everything. I'm not going to skip over anything. I'm going to record everything, and you could see how I deal with problems, because essentially when you're building custom infrastructure. Oh, and before I even get into that, let's do this. I'm gonna have OpenClaw. I'll show a little demo, um, and we'll get into all the goods while the demo's happening. So essentially, Pixel World is something I've built over the past year and a half, 2 years. It's been evolving as I've been learning, and it initially was an image and video generation studio, but I started to progress so much that it became evident I need to change this to a infrastructure platform, because I got so in the deep with like everything that comes with building AI infrastructure. So I've essentially changed this to a provider service of building custom AI infrastructure for businesses and creators. Now, if you go on here, you can see there's different types of sort of mock agents to test out. So like this is a leads agent. You could say how many leads do we have? And essentially this agent is tied to a backend Supabase table, and has all this information about leads, and you can query and it can give you data points based off leads. What do our finances look like? And essentially, when you think of agents, you have to think of. I keep delaying. Let's get into OpenClaw. We'll get OpenClaw doing something so I can show you guys something live. Okay, so and then we'll get back to the agent. I'm just I'm excited. I'm excited. And you guys should be too, because this stuff is going to change your game. So, hey, Vox. Vox is the name of my OpenClaw. Um, can you review your memories for the past 2 weeks and get up to speed on your Pixel World staging skill? Okay, so what I'm doing here with Vox is he's tied to. I'm gonna refer to him as he. People call it, she. It's he for me. Essentially, Vox is hooked up to GitHub and my database too, and they're all at different levels. I've been sort of building it as I've been growing, but essentially, I have a staging environment and a production environment, and it's hooked to the staging environment. So I developed a skill where I've taught it what it needs to do whenever I need to update our staging environment. So when I want to test new features, when I want to add something to the website or platform, I have it review the past 2 weeks of memories. Sometimes I go further back depending on what I want it to remember, because context is everything. You Context is such a huge thing when you're dealing with agents and all that good stuff. So I'm secure with with Vox. Like I have it containerized within a VPS machine on a Hostinger. There's certain keys and stuff that I allow it to tell me. Now there's certain things that I hide from it, or him, because I am the only one that should know that. And that's something that we'll go over throughout this course. Is there's certain secrets and variables that you you can give an agent, and then there's some that you don't want to give to anyone. It should only be you. And forgive me, I got to get used to looking at the camera. I'm not too used to doing this, so you'll see me sometimes look at my other screen. But essentially, okay, so I've been doing other projects and such, and so it's getting up to speed with memories, some things we did on a different project for roots, security updates. All this stuff is essentially how I've told it um, to be able to work within my staging environment. So now I'm going to say, okay, we just did a demo the other day, and we created this demo day page very quickly. And essentially, I asked it to add a button up here for a page for the demo so I could showcase it live. So what we'll do is we'll remove that page and then we'll add in a new page, and we'll just do something random. Can you remove the demo day page as well as from the header? Header. Uh, let's add a new page and we'll do, hey, YouTube, on this page, can you talk about our infrastructure and what we will teach? The essentials of Cloudflare, Supabase, NAN, uh, OpenClaw, etc. And say hi and introduce yourself. Let's also make sure the header stays on that page so we can go back to the home page. Okay, so can you give me your game plan? All right, so essentially, what it's going to do now is it's going to mock up a game plan of what it's going to build. I can verify it, look at it all, make sure it's all good, and then say, let's go, let's do it. And what it will do is on the back end, it will start going into the code within GitHub. It pulls the repos, or it has the repository. It has the latest head of staging, and it will start reworking the code. It'll add the page, and it knows my code base. And that's the thing. Whenever we start building, is that we're going to build from scratch essentially, and then you can document it along the way so that you always have something that you can tie it back to. Now, agents aren't perfect, and it also depends on, you know, what model LLM you use with OpenClaw. I use Kimi. It's super intelligent, it's inexpensive, and it gets the job done. If you're doing higher, like more like code intensive tasks, of course you can use Opus, you can use Codex and all that, but that's where like you have to figure out what intelligence do you need to get the job done for you and do it in a timely manner and that is cheap. So I'm never doing anything like that's super code intensive that it's going to take like a day for the agent to code, and I don't want it to do that. There are people on there that have these run over like a period of time, but if they mess up, you're eating tokens and you're eating money essentially, and you don't want to do that. So that's something to bear in mind. Now, of course, we'll go over that in this series. Okay, so it's given me its game plan. Remove demo day, create the new page, app YouTube page. Yeah, look at that. Okay. Does this plan show you the YouTube red accent? Yeah, yes, let's do red accent. Do conversational and casual. topics, we can do anything to do with AI infrastructure. So so now it's off doing its thing. We'll come back to that. Now, essentially, what it's doing is within GitHub, and we're going to go over all of these setups. Within GitHub, I have a staging environment and a main environment. And then there's branches that it's done. I initially did branches and then I would merge to staging, but I got to the point where it's like, okay, it's more efficient if I just give him access to staging and then he can commit and then it builds and then I can preview it. It all depends on how secure you want to get with it. Um, and we'll get into that. There'll be a whole security section on this, but essentially it's going to go in, it's going to update this code, and it's going to commit to GitHub, and then it'll build. While it's thinking, so within here, when you think of agents, you have to think of like data. Agents are very good with a lot of data. Um, and so it's really good when you're creating like, let's say a leads agent. So in let me bring up. Okay, so you see this now. I built this lead system, and essentially what it's doing is in the background you can see NAN, and in here there is a leads. Let me find it. A lead system. And essentially what this is doing is using Apify. It's a service to scrape. I give it a bunch of data. So I set up a config of what I want this agent to use for uh, for scraping businesses that may need leads. And what it'll do is it process those, it gets me leads, and then then it takes those, it goes to another workflow and enriches them. So then it looks at their website, it grabs data, and then pulls that, places it into Supabase here. So if I go to staging, and I got a lot of stuff. I've been doing a lot of different things. If we go to Julian leads, you'll see all these leads, and essentially at the beginning, it gets the job title, the company, all that kind of information. So when you're in, let me bring up this again. So when you're in here, then what happens is in this portal that I'm making for clients is you get all this information. So they come in and they have all this data, and I have a follow-up system. But essentially, they have all this data of who these people are, and then what they do. It drafts an email. It sets everything up to where you just need to review the email and then hit send. So that's essentially an what an agent can be. You have to, when you're thinking about it for your business or personal use, it's what kind of data can the agent, and there's multiple types of agents. So like this type of agent is like it's taking data, it's assessing who the person is. I give it examples of emails. It uses that as a basis and then drafts an email and sets up the system. So it's scraping, enriching, setting up the draft. Then as a user, a manual person, I come and say, okay, yes, send that email. Then afterward, there's an automated process of every few days, it'll do follow-up drafts in the emails. So I have the agent's doing most of the work, and then the user is in there to just say yes, send this. Which certain things you should have like that, and then certain things you don't have like that. It just depends on the agent. Now that's a very specific agent. OpenClaw is a different type of agent. It's one that can control your system, your computer, your everything. So this one, you have to be very careful with. Like I don't install it on your local computer. Don't just give it access to everything. It's like if you were to have a company and then you essentially say hire on a new employee and like, oh, you give them all the keys to your engineering, setup, and you just trust them right away. You wouldn't do that. And it's the same with an agent. Like you build in security features and walls, and then as you work with it and learn and trust it, like it will, then you give it more and more access. And there's things I've talked with Vox about that it's like, no, you shouldn't do that, and it's put me in check. And it's like it's pretty cool. And that comes down to, and we'll get into this about like how you develop the personality, the culture of working with the agent, your setup. But essentially, okay, so that's work on it. Now there's other types of agents. So if I go to like content creator, we have this very simple, crude content creator where you can have an agent. You say, hey, I want to. Oh, I'm doing it in the wrong one. Let's do this one. Hey, let's create a Batman image. And then what it'll do is it's going to pop up with what I built. I built a tool on the back end, and this connects to an API, foul.ai, that has a bunch of these models. And essentially, we say Batman at night on a skyscraper. Now, this is really crude. We'll do 9 by 16. We'll do create image. So what that's doing is it's sending out. So in the background, NAN's running now. It sets up the queue, sends it to foul.ai. It'll render the image and then pull it back. So if you're thinking from a marketing standpoint, you can set this up like if you have a YouTube channel or shorts or whatever, you can set up an agent to where it's using this system. So if you're going to a certain vendor all the time, let's say like VO3. So there you go, you get the images. And let's say I want to edit this one. Change the image to daytime, maintain composition. So that's going to use an editing system, Nana Banana and Foul.ai. But if you had like you're using AI videos or whatever it may be, you can set up your agent to know what tools to hit and what routes to take, and then give it direction on, okay, I want this created, use this tool, and then put it to this tool, and then put it to this tool. And you can build an agent around that. And this is a very crude way of doing it. You could see it. He's floating. Let's try to edit again. Um, put. Let's do maintain composition and um, have Batman standing on a building. So, and then you can sort of fine tune your image using this agent, and then create a video with it. So I'll show you that in a second once this one goes through. But you have to think like, what are you wanting these agents to do? What is it going to help minimize? Like the whole thing is figuring out, you know, you run all these systems and then you want to automate it, but then you want to put something with logic to it. And then that's when the agent comes in. It's a reasoning. Sometimes when you do automations, you don't need an agent because it may be very deterministic. You're doing this, then this, then this, and that's where NAN comes in because it's very automated. You're sending this, it processes it, it outputs this. An agent comes in when you need it to reason, and this isn't really set up as reason. That's pretty cool. Changed his position, but that's all right. Okay, so then you can animate. Batman stands there while his cape flies. Cape um, floats.
drifts in the air by wind flow. Okay, we'll do 5 seconds, no audio. Okay, so what was I saying? Oh, yeah, so sometimes you don't. So like this is a system where it's very easy for me to go through images and then you have a gallery and you can edit, pick, all that kind of stuff. Now, if I wanted it to actually like reason, I could set up a tool or a way that it thinks, and in the background, I give it a prompt of like, hey, I want a um, a video of Superman fighting Batman, uh, but send me the images first and give me a bunch of them. And you can set up parameters for how many images it comes back with it. It can look at those images. You can set up all types of tools. So it's really sweet. And I didn't code any of this. Like this is all OpenClaw. Set up all this. Now, when you're working with it, it's tied into my GitHub and my front end, back end. Uh, it you there will be issues or errors that you run into. It can create problems, but that's the whole point of this series, is to show you how I get through those problems, because you will run into problems. It's just that's the nature of this. But the thing is, the more and more you do it, the better you get, and you'll start to understand um, what problems are occurring and why, and then know how to mitigate those easily. And then you can teach your agent, hey, this is happening when this happens. Remember it for the future, and it gets better. It grows, and I mean you can go crazy with how you build this. Okay, so it did its stuff. Let's see, down here, let's refresh so I can show you the build. Did it not commit? May have not committed. Can you commit to staging? Okay, so while it commits staging, so what it'll do is it's going to commit to here, and then that will prompt a build to Cloudflare, which will then update our staging environment so that we can see what's going on. Okay. So, and throughout this whole website, oh, one thing that we should talk about too is ChatGPT or Claude or whatever large language model subscription, get one. Always have it. And I say that because you're going to want uh, a large language model that's really good as a validator, and also of a means of telling your agent, um, see, okay, so like here, it committed a new branch, but I wanted to do staging, which is just a little mess up. Can you commit to staging instead of a separate branch? So when you're doing this, sometimes like your prompt to the agent may not have enough context, may not have enough information. And what I've learned is sometimes Vox, my OpenClaw, will tell me something, and I'm like, I don't know if that's right. So then I'll feed it to ChatGPT. I'll give ChatGPT a bunch of context about the problem or whatever I'm building, and then formulate a draft to what it should say to Vox. And so then I give Vox that setup, and it goes off and does its thing. So you'll see me throughout this series always have ChatGPT open, and when I run in when I run into an error, I'll feed it to Vox, I'll feed it to ChatGPT, and we'll get through it and we'll figure it out. Because you will always run into errors. Okay, let's see. All right, so let's see if that actually is pushing. There we go. So you can see down here, this is the one that I don't need that one because that's a different branch, so we'll delete that. But this is essentially the staging branch. So within here, uh, it's building. So it's building what he propagated. And you can see all the information down here. So we'll let that run. And then once that builds, we'll show the output. And then uh, with this, if you go to, you know, again, I'm not good at the CTA stuff. I want to keep this raw. If you like this stuff, like and subscribe. You know, I'm going to go through again the whole series. And essentially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy a domain and I'm going to build an agent. And that agent is going to be for building from scratch. So essentially, my teaching, I'm going to build an agent that will take my teachings and help users. So at the end, I'll build a product that will essentially users can go purchase, and it'll have um, beginning GitHub repo, like an image of OpenClaw. So you can skip those steps, but if you want to do it raw, you can, you know, watch the videos, of course. But the agent, I want an agent built that where if you're going through my video series, then you can ask that agent questions and it'll help you based off of the stuff I feed it based off of what I'm building. So every day, when I'm building, I'm going to be feeding information, collecting information that I can drive that agent to help users better. Okay, so you can see it's built. So let's go to our staging, refresh. Hey, look at that. So hey YouTube, look at that. So here's the deal. Isn't that sweet? That's so cool. So when you're thinking about this, it's like you know, this is sort of like lovable sort of Claude code, you know, but it's yours. You get to own it. You get to design it. You build from it and you tailor it to what you need and what your customers need or your personal use. So then you can build your website without having to go through, you know, like there's nothing wrong with these companies like Wix, GoDaddy. They all have their the way that they provide their service. You know, they're great for getting a website up quickly. But if you want custom features, a web app. And this can go even further. Like I haven't even gotten into building an app for Apple Store. Now I've never done that, and I may do a series later on about that. But it's the same logic, the same way of going about it. Once you have this infrastructure, then it's like, oh, okay, I can build stuff really quick. And I just built something a few days ago. I had an idea and I built it super fast, 4 days, from buying domain to doing the idea. And essentially, it's this, and it's going to say I've failed. I bet it's 3lives.ai, and it's this fun little discipline consistency game. And you can see I lost a life. I think I had to get up at like 3 or 4 in the morning to answer a question. Um, but let me bring up a new domain. Right, as you can see, it's this fun little game. It's for 365 days, and essentially, you get a question per day, and it goes deep into knowing yourself. So you get a time, a signal. The first question it asks about you, your personality, your attributes, all that good stuff. And then the next question will feed off of that. And the next question is at a different time the next day, and it's a random time. So it's a game to play off of, you know, being consistent, discipline, and then you get these seals at the end of weeks, and then each month, each 3 months, 6 months, and then up to a year. And it just basically tells you what your strengths and your weaknesses are based off your questions. It was a fun little idea, and I wanted to see how fast I could take that idea and bring it to market quickly with my skills in using OpenClaw and having it connected to GitHub. And essentially, I had the idea on, I think, a Friday, and I had it live and built on on I think Wednesday. So it was like 4 days to have it built. And I used NAN. There's an agent in there which pulls in information from you. So it has that first question, and then when you answer that second question, that gets fed to the agent, and then it builds and it utilizes the past 7 questions to build and know who you are. So it's learning from you as a user. So it's super cool. So essentially, with all of this, basically, I want to teach everyone how to build your own custom AI infrastructure, know how to build agents, and then you're capable of building super fast. And then you're not tied to these other large companies. Now they're great. Claude Code is great. Codex is great. But what happens if something happens to those companies? Or you want your own data? You want to hold your own customer data or personal data? You don't want to go through them. You want to have it yourself. You want to be able to manipulate and use that data to build really cool stuff. So that's what this whole series is going to be about. And we're going to go through the nitty gritty. Again, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. But with that, you're going to learn a lot. You're going to go through some pain, and you're going to come out of it a better builder. And this is for everyone. Like if you're interested in it, like if you're afraid of coding, you don't need to know coding. Does it help? For sure, of course. But there's things that I will teach along the way of like what questions to ask to make sure you are secure, to make sure when you do go live you don't have flaws within your system that users or other people can take advantage of. And we'll go through all of that, and I'm super stoked. Now as as we go through this, I'm going to build a universal video which will have it all. So if you're early, you'll see me probably point at the end and it won't have anything because I'm building the videos. But I'll adjust that later on to where I'll point to a main workflow video, which will be this and then tied and have the whole gamut of the build. So let's do this. Follow along, like, subscribe, and let's get it done.